Hi, this is Dina for Splitcoaststampers. In this video, I have some tips for simple coloring on Kraft paper. Now, it's important to know that Kraft is a kind of paper rather than a color of paper. It's a strong and toothy unbleached paper, which makes it an excellent surface for colored pencils. I've printed a digital image here to work with, and I have product info in the supply list on the photo tutorial. I'm starting with the highlights using my lightest color. And I'm using very light pressure and a very sharp pencil, and both of those things are important for building up layers of color. If you need help knowing where to place your highlights, there are some guidelines in one of our site tutorials called Shading with Pencils. Basically, highlights in natural light are in areas that appear to be closer to you, areas that are higher on the image, and areas that appear to be curving toward you or rounded toward you. So on this section of the image, the moose's little body, I'm coloring the top of the head and nose, the top of the ear, tops of the arms and shoulders, and then on the little legs, I moved my highlight to the center to make the legs look a little rounded and give him some little knees. After the first layer, I sharpened my pencil and used the same light pressure to add a little more intensity to the highlights. And those will go closer to the tops of things that have top highlights, and then to the centers of the highlights that are making things more rounded. Again, it's important to keep using light pressure as you layer so you don't fill the tooth or texture of the paper too quickly. If you fill it too quickly, you'll end up with blocky coloring, and you won't be able to blend areas together. For this sample, since I'm coloring the moose's body brown and my paper is brown, I'm using the color of the paper as my medium color. And so here my technique will be a little different than other areas where a medium color blends highlights and shadows together. And you'll see what I mean as I continue. My next color is a dark brown, and that will be used for shading. Shaded areas are areas that are hidden behind or under something that would cast a shadow, areas that are lower on the image, and areas that are farther away or curving away. So my shading will go in the ear, under the chin, and around and below the heart, under the arms, at the bottom of the moose where it curves underneath, and on the legs at the bottom and where they curve around to the back. And then I'll go back and deepen some of those shadows where they would be the darkest. And I'm still using the same light pressure, but smaller circular motions to kind of burnish down the pigment and make that coloring more dense and saturated. And once you have those shaded areas blocked in, you can go back and lightly blend and adjust your coloring by adding layers as needed. Keep using light pressure and a very sharp point to blend so that you can keep this soft transition into that middle color and also add any texture that you might want to later. On an animal, I like to add little fur strokes. So I added some here with both my light and dark colors. The light ones I'm doing now, and I'll add the darker ones later. I'm going to color the antlers and the heart a little differently using 3 pencils for each color area, a light, medium, and dark for each. So I'm starting again with the lightest color, which is white in this case. And I'll color in my highlights at the tops of the antlers, the cheek, and the curves of the heart. I did jump around a little bit here, but the next step is to color with the darkest pencil and then blend the 2 colored areas, the highlight and the shadow, together with the middle color. And again, I'm using that same light pressure so that I have plenty of tooth left to blend and add more layers. When that's done, you'll repeat with the light color again, using light pressure over the light and medium areas, and then blend from dark to medium with the dark colors until you have the blend that you want. And you can go back and forth with that process until you have the look that you're going for. I added a deeper shadow at the bottom of the heart with a dark brown pencil as well. On the antlers, I'll go in with a dark brown along the bottom. And then go in with a golden brown to blend over the light and dark colors, to blend those areas together using light pressure. And then again, I'll clarify the highlights and shadows and blend again with the middle color. Here I'm adding a little more fur texture with the dark brown, working out lightly from the shadows. And here I'm using a colorless blender pencil to lightly blend using that same fur texture. And I don't think it really did anything noticeable, but if you have one of these, you can try using it to lightly soften your color transitions. I added a drop shadow at the bottom of the image to ground the moose. Your image might not require that, but if you want to add a shadow, I just added a very light oval underneath and slightly to the outsides of the image. And then I layered a little more between his little legs where his body would cast a denser shadow. I like to use acrylic paint pens to add little dots or highlights. I can get a brighter white and a darker black this way, and the pens work really nicely over pencil coloring. This brand is Thule Art, and I have been pleased with these so far. If I'm coloring something with eyes, I like to use the black marker to darken the eyes and nose, and the pen gives them a little shine. And then this little guy has little black hooves that got an extra coat as well. One more tip is to take your darkest color and lightly go around the edges of the image to create a slight contrast between the highlights and the base color. It doesn't take much, and I've used the lightest pressure possible, but it just kind of helps the colors pop a little bit more. I know each image you color will be different, but hopefully you've picked up some tips here that will help when you color with pencils on craft or darker papers. Thank you so much for watching.